today I'm going to be putting it in my 1997 Polaris Xpress 400. So let me bring you in for a closer look and show you just what made this the baddest 400 motor ever made. The most obvious difference between this new motor and a stock 400 is obviously going to be the cylinder. So these cylinders were actually made by HPD High Performance Design up in Minnesota back in like the late 90s, I think it is. But I'll actually throw up some pictures now because there's like, he's posted on one of the Facebook groups some of the development stuff, like the pictures of like the original cylinders they made. And basically the stock 400 cylinder design it has a single exhaust port, which is just like a huge disadvantage. And so he decided he was going to go to CPI up near Tulsa, Oklahoma, somewhere up there, and have them make aftermarket cylinders. So it's like the same company that makes all of like Dave Moore, all of their cylinders, was LED. So same company that makes all the super high horsepower two-stroke cylinders. So it's pretty obvious just looking at this thing that it was made by CPI, just because of how similar it looks to the modern 250R cylinders, like the single cylinder stuff they're doing to this day. And I'll actually throw up a picture now just for comparison. But anyways, super cool. So let's go ahead and tear into this thing and see what exactly we're working with. Also, before I take the head off, just look at how awesome that is, this billet head. It's got the HPD logo on there, the PowerMaxxx logo, 416. Obviously, because it says 416 on there, this thing actually runs like an 87mm piston, which brings it up to the motor to 416 cc's. Let's get this off of here. Alright, the O-rings are actually in the cylinder, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, there's the head. It is super dirty. Here's a closer look at the head here, just if you were curious. There's the dome. So let's pull the spark plug out and pop the dome out and see what it says on top. Alright, it doesn't really say anything except 416 on it, but I'm told this is a regular like pump gas dome, so hopefully we don't get any surprises by putting regular pump gas in there. There's kind of a better look at the exhaust port setup on this thing with the power valve, but I'm gonna actually go ahead and take the intake off and like the cylinder and everything, just so I can get you guys a better look at the actual ports, because it's kind of hard to see with the cylinder still in the motor. Also, this is just something to note that's insane. This guy was still running the stock oil injection on this kit, which is bananas. And one more cool thing is actually, that is a 48mm carb. Is that not ridiculous? 48mm, which, I mean, I don't know, I just think that's crazy. But anyways, let's start pulling this intake off. Alright, so I went ahead and got the carb boot loosened up. Here's a better look at this carb. This is super cool. It's got the billet bowl on there. I've also never had electron carb, so I'm really excited to try that out. But yeah, absolutely enormous. And this is one more really cool thing about this. So this actually runs snowmobile reeds. I actually have this reed spacer from a 400 because I don't have any stock reeds to compare it against. But look how much bigger this is than a 400, like a standard 400's reeds. I don't know if it'll do any justice, but they're way bigger. It's pretty crazy. I actually just noticed this. There's all sorts of trash in here. It's like sand in there. So hopefully our cylinder's not destroyed. So another thing, I don't even know if I've mentioned this yet. This thing has a power valve on it, which is so sick. So it's gonna have like a crazy wide power band. I think I'm gonna have to pull this off to actually get to the base nut, because I don't think there's any way I'm gonna get a wrench in there. So I'm gonna pull this off and then hopefully we can start taking the base nuts off. Huh. I guess I didn't need to take that off because I can get a socket on there. Not well, but it's on there. You know what? I've got a better idea. Okay, that works out. All right, not enough power from the old impact driver. This is gonna be really hard to undo with the engine on the floor. Okay, that was actually easy. I have no clue why my impact driver couldn't get that. These lower ones are giving me some trouble, so I'm gonna try with the old double wrench method. I think now we can go ahead and just pull this thing off of here. Ooh. Oh, we got some coolant. I'm gonna go dump that out real quick. All right, here she is in all her glory. See if you guys can see down in there. Triple exhaust ports with a power valve. If you don't know why that's important, basically it just allows the spent exhaust gases to evacuate the cylinder quicker, and basically it leads to more power. And the power valve makes more power, or it doesn't necessarily make more power, but it gives you a more usable power band by altering the exhaust timing, which can give you more or less torque on the bottom end and more or less horsepower on the top end. But anyways, this port layout is insane. Look at that intake. I've never seen anything like that before. It's pretty cool. And then here's the transfers. There's the, he wrote Nick on here somewhere. Oh, what does that say? NS201R or 2019. I don't know what that says. It says Nicholas over there. There's the intake. Yeah, this cylinder is so crazy. I don't really know what these do. I don't know if it's just to like strengthen the cylinder or what, but boy, is this thing cool. This is by far the coolest thing I own, like no comparison. I've wanted one of these for as long as I knew they existed, and the fact that I have one now is like literally a dream come true. Boy, is this cool. It's also staggering. It's like lighter than a stock 400 cylinder because it's Nicosil plated, which is another cool thing. I don't even think I mentioned that either. It's Nicosil plated. It doesn't have a cast iron liner. The cylinder walls aren't like scored up or anything. There's definitely not any cross hatching on them. Well, I'm gonna clean this thing up, and then we can put this back together and get it ready to put inside the chassis. So this is also a cool thing that I noticed. Well, aside from the intake ports being different from a normal 400, it's got these little holes right here, which help cool the bridges on the intake. And then it also has some on the back side of the piston to help cool the exhaust bridges. It might be kind of hard to tell, or I don't know if the difference will come across on camera, but I did go ahead and clean up the cylinder. And then I also cleaned up the head. I think it looks a lot better. But, ooh, got oil coming from somewhere. So anyways, I'm gonna start putting this motor back together and then we can start tearing apart the four-wheeler. Also, this base gasket has this white stuff on it. I don't really know what it is, but I'm gonna put it towards the cases. Hopefully that is correct. We got our cylinder here, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of two-stroke oil in there and lube it up. Now that I have the top end on there and the bolts are like, you know, loosely tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit extra two-stroke oil in there just to make sure everything is properly lubricated. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I did get some gaskets for it, and I'm gonna run one on both sides of the reeds because, I mean, our intakes like billet, so it's not like one of the rubber ones where it'll seal itself. So putting this together. So we're all buttoned back up. There is one thing we need to do though before I actually put this back in. Actually, two things that I want to do. So first thing we're doing is we're getting rid of this oil injection because I'm not running that. So on the oil pump, you just really need to get these three screws out of there, and then those two down in there that actually hold the pump in, and everything should just lift right off. All right, there we go. I'm gonna go grab the oil injection block off plate from my stock motor so we can go ahead and put it on here. Here's one of the Rick Ritter block off plates. There's definitely nothing special to it, but I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of anaerobic gasket maker on there just so I'm worried. I don't want to get any leaks right there. So all right, I actually went ahead and tightened them off camera because I want to go to dinner. But I want to go ahead and actually take the starter off because I already don't use it on my 400, and being that it is a Polaris 400, I will take any weight savings I can get. So the next thing we need to do is actually go ahead and pull this stator off of here. So because the Express started life as a utility machine, it's got like a higher output charging system, and this is actually the lower output charging system, this stator and flywheel. So we're gonna have to swap over the stator and flywheel from our Express onto this motor. So all we gotta do now is just bust this nut loose, and then we can use our flywheel puller and just pop that out, pull the stator, and put our other ones in. Wow, that was really clean in there. This flywheel literally looks brand new. Holy cow. So now we just take these Phillips heads out. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, no. I'm cooked. Oh. I hate these Phillips heads so much on these things. It's like I've never had one not strip out on me. Oh, I'm cooked. I'm cooked. Hey, it worked. Just took the old T30 and hammered it in the stripped out screw. Bro, look at that. They use the worst Phillip heads I've ever had the displeasure of working with. They're like made of Play-Doh. They just like deform instantly. And that worked too. Hooray. Now you guys know how the flywheel and like the stator comes out of there. I'm gonna go pull mine off my stock engine and then I'll meet back up with you when we're putting it back together. So this is what the 6-magnet stator looks like. And then here's the flywheel. So it's a little different. But anyways, I'm tired of messing with this stuff, so I'm gonna put this back together. And you know, after all that work I did, not really that much work in the last video, putting on the other pull start handle. I'm just gonna have a stock one again, but it does look better, I will admit. Finally, this thing is ready to go in. So let's go start working on pulling that motor out. So next up, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this exhaust off, just because, frankly, I've kind of been dreading it. So I want to get it out of the way. Well, I didn't expect that to happen. So next we gotta get this clutch cover off of here, but to do that we actually have to pull the Nerf bars off first. So okay, now we just pull the clutch cover off. So while we do have the clutches off this time, I am going to go ahead and make some changes, but we'll do that in a little bit. I need to get this engine swapped first. Get our belt out of the way. Hopefully our secondary just pulls off, and it does. Looks like our belt was shedding some material. I was just getting ready to take off the worm clamp here, and it's like loose. I wonder if that's almost certainly what was causing my high idle in the last video. It has to be. Well, anyways, pop the carb out, I guess. All right, so we've got 3 motor mounts. We've got this one down here, our upper motor mount right there, and then a third one down here at the front of the motor. All right, I'm gonna loosen those up and then I'll catch back up with you whenever I'm actually pulling the motor out, because I think we have everything else disconnected already. Well, as you can see, it's ready to come out. Ta-da. Well, the stock motor is on the ground, which is a very strange sight to see. So I actually already went ahead and took off the motor mount plates and put them on the Powermaxxx cylinder. So all we have left to do now is to actually put it in the frame. All right, this is a lot heavier because it has a stator and flywheel in it. It's in. Boy, does that look sick. I do think I'm gonna have to cut that upper radiator hose shorter though. Well, I went to toss the carb on because I wanted to send a picture to my friends. And we're running into some issues. So if you look over here, our boot is not sliding onto the intake because it's resting on the trans. So our big fancy bowl is not gonna work. I hope I can make the carb work. I'm not gonna worry about that quite yet because I don't have a bowl to swap out, and my friend does, so I'm gonna have to take, he also has the pipe that matches this setup. So anyways, we're gonna be going over there tomorrow to get the pipe and hopefully get a bowl that fits on this thing. But in the meantime, I'm gonna work on the clutches just because might as well. So I did mention that I wanted to make some clutching changes. So the first one being our primary clutch. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it is pretty worn if you look at the ramps down in there. And I actually have a brand new clutch here. So I figured, why not put the fancy clutch on my 400 since we're already doing the fancy motor. I was gonna use this on my 250 on the 3-wheeler, but this just feels right. So I'm gonna start breaking down this primary clutch and we'll swap over our weights and our spring. And if you were wondering, I'm running the Rick Ritter lime green and purple spring. And then those are 44.5 gram weights, might be 44. I'm pretty sure it's 44.5, but either way, it's close enough. There's our weight. So anyways, I'm gonna finish this up, and then once the clutch is back together, we'll catch back up. All right, I lied. I was gonna just do it off camera, but I figured I might as well give you a little tip. If you're ever doing any clutch work, these tools are like the clutch compression tools are like absolutely necessary. Not literally, but they make life a lot easier. So I also did a quick preload change on the secondary. I was running it at 3.2 and now I'm bumping it down to 2.2 because I read Olav's clutch tuning manual and apparently less preload is better. So sort of, I guess it depends, but I think for my scenario, less preload would be better. All right, I'm gonna try and get this thing back together as quick as I can, so that way I can bring it over to my friend's house tomorrow. All right, so now we can go ahead and put our clutches back on. Well, I don't know why my camera's going crazy, but I got the secondary on, clutch covers back on. I'm actually going to go ahead and throw the plastics on and everything just because I can't really progress any further until I get those parts from my friends. So I'm going to put this thing mostly together, and then we'll catch back up whenever I'm actually over at his house, so that way we can actually try and get this thing started. So I'll catch back up with you when I'm there. All right, I'm over at my friend Carl's house, and we're going to see if we can get a carbon pipe on here. So look at all the cool stuff he has. So I got the carbon pipe on here, and it was actually horrible. So the original owner of this pipe, instead of pulling the stinger off, he just took a hacksaw and just cut it right in half. So we had to figure out how to get the pipe basically put together without having anything to connect it. So we just used a piece of heat tape and some silicone tube, and we were able to get it together. And then on the carb side of things, because the billet bowl wasn't fitting, we just put a stock Electron carb on there, and like just the clear plastic ones, and that sort of fits. It's still pushing against the trans, which is why we have this Scotch-Brite pad in there protecting it so we don't wear through the side of it. But I mean, so far it's fitting, but tuning Electron was a crazy learning curve, because you just gotta throw everything you know out the window, and we were all over the place trying to get this thing tuned, but I think we have it mostly dialed in now. So, oh, one more thing, we were running our bowl dry, and this was part of the kit that HPD originally sold, and we actually had to go ahead and put a vacuum fuel pump on there. And so this is actually kind of funny, we couldn't find any like barb fittings that fit the M6 thread pitch that we needed. And so we just took a grease fitting and just drilled it out, and it worked perfectly. So I had to get a little creative on that. But oh, also, this pipe does not fit at all in a non-concentric chassis. We had to put it, and it might just be a utility chassis thing too, but we had to put a fat dent in the front of it to get it to clear the tie rods. Also, the stock Polaris throttle cable does not work. So this is just some random Motion Pro throttle cable. And then the thumb throttle didn't work either, so we had to use this billet throttle that my friend Carl graciously let me borrow for this trip. So that's pretty much everything. So I'm gonna throw in some pulls, and then I guess that's pretty much all I have. Well, that's all I have for you guys. That thing is insane. Like, it is crazy how fast it is. I'm actually getting ready to go to the dunes here in the morning. It is super late right now. I should really be in bed. But there is going to be some riding footage coming, so I'll try and get that as soon as I can. But that is all I have for you guys today. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. It really means a lot to me. And I hope to see you guys in the next one.